You see, when something or someone is divinely appointed for you, the first thing you'll notice isn't necessarily a spark or a grand emotional wave. It's peace, a stillness, a calm so quiet, so gentle, yet so undeniable. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply settles into your soul like a key sliding perfectly into its lock. There is a kind of peace that doesn't come from favorable circumstances or from everything looking perfect on paper. It's deeper than that. It transcends logic and timing. This peace isn't a byproduct of certainty in the other person, but certainty in the one who orchestrates all things. That's the kind of peace you feel when God is truly in the center of a connection. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of peace that comes from fantasy or wishful thinking. The kind that says, well, they seem nice enough, and I'm tired of waiting, so this must be it. No, that's desperation trying to dress up as discernment. Real divine peace doesn't need to justify itself with excuses. It doesn't stir anxiety. It doesn't push you to rush. It doesn't make you question your worth. It simply is. You meet this person, and something in you doesn't flare up with fear or insecurity. You're not left wondering if you're enough, or if you'll be abandoned, or if they're playing games. You're not constantly seeking validation. There's a kind of quiet confidence that enters your spirit. Like God is whispering, arrest, you're safe here. And yet that doesn't mean there won't be questions. It doesn't mean it will all make sense immediately. But even in the moments of uncertainty, that peace remains, like an anchor beneath the waves. That's the difference. You're not looking for a storm-free sea. You're looking for the presence of peace in the storm. Because when it's God, peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's His presence in the midst of it. Some people may say, oh, but shouldn't love be passionate and overwhelming? And yes, it can be passionate. But divine passion doesn't come from turbulence. It comes from harmony, from alignment, from something deeper than infatuation. It's not the fireworks, it's the fire that sustains. When God is bringing someone into your life as your chosen partner, peace becomes the very first signpost. It precedes romance. It precedes compatibility tests and personality types. It may even precede a clear definition of what the relationship is. But it's there, quietly guiding, steadily affirming. In a world so full of noise, peace is the language heaven uses to say, yes. You'll feel it in their presence, in the way your soul breathes a little easier, in the way you feel seen, not just externally, but spiritually. They don't complete you. They complement the completeness God is already forming in you. And that peace, it isn't just for the good days. It endures. It shows up even in hard conversations. It doesn't run when emotions fluctuate. It grounds you when fear tries to steal your clarity. And here's the subtle magic of it all. God's peace doesn't manipulate. It doesn't twist your heart into knots or make you chase love like it's hiding from you. It simply waits. It stands and reassures. And when the peace of God aligns with the presence of another soul, that's when you start to see that love is not found in the frenzy, but in the stillness. So if you're wondering whether the person in front of you is sent by God, don't just look for signs in the sky. Look for the peace in your soul, because the one who holds the stars in place will confirm it not through noise, but through silence that sings. And in that stillness, you'll know this is not just love. It is alignment. Sometimes the most beautiful confirmation that someone has been sent into your life by divine design is when your purpose and their purpose seem to recognize each other. Not just in the way you laugh together or enjoy each other's company, but in the way your lives begin to form a bridge towards something greater. You start noticing that their presence doesn't distract you from your calling. It deepens your connection to it. They don't just fit into your world, they expand it. And that, my friend, is no accident. When someone is aligned with your divine assignment, there's an effortless flow between who you are and who you're becoming. It's like the gravity of two planets pulling each other into perfect orbit. You find yourselves moving in the same direction, not because you're trying to mold yourselves to match, but because you were always meant to walk that path together. Their passion fuels yours. Your growth challenges theirs. It's not competition, it's collaboration. You'll see how their gifts complement your own. If you're someone who dreams, they'll be someone who builds. If you carry vision, they'll carry structure. It's almost as if the things you lacked, they carry, and the things they struggle with, you instinctively strengthen. That kind of mutual edification isn't found on dating apps or romantic fantasy. It's born in the blueprint of divine timing. The connection doesn't just feel good, it bears fruit. You start noticing how your conversations shift. You're not just talking about each other, you're talking about impact, about growth, about destiny. Suddenly, love isn't just about what you feel, it's about what you're building. When God is in it, the relationship naturally invites you to become more of yourself, not less. You don't have to shrink to make them shine, and they don't dim your light to protect their ego. Instead, it's as if the two of you are lanterns brighter together than you ever were apart. You begin to realize that the love you're experiencing is actually a vehicle, a sacred container designed to carry you both toward a higher calling. Now, that doesn't mean everything will be easy. In fact, when purpose is involved, there may be resistance, not from within the connection, but from the forces that fear what the two of you could become. The enemy doesn't mind casual love affairs. What he fears is partnership with power. He fears unity with purpose. Because when two people walk together in alignment with heaven's agenda, mountains move. So don't ignore that sign. When you notice that your heart is being stirred, not just emotionally, but spiritually, pay attention. When their dreams spark yours to life, when their hunger for growth ignites something in you, when the thought of walking away feels like walking away from a part of your calling, that is not ordinary. That is sacred. That is evidence of design. You might find that being with them brings out clarity where there was once confusion, direction where there was drift. Suddenly, goals that seemed distant now feel attainable, not because they're your savior, but because their presence reminds you of what you were always capable of. This is not the kind of connection that leaves you exhausted, drained, or lost. This is the kind that energizes, that sharpens, that reminds you gently and continually that love isn't just about emotional support, it's about spiritual partnership. And when two souls step into that kind of alignment, the whole world feels the echo of it. So don't just look for chemistry. Don't settle for comfort. Look for alignment. Look for someone whose presence awakens your purpose, whose life doesn't compete with yours, but completes the mission you didn't even know you were preparing for. Because when destiny recognizes itself in another, love is no longer just a feeling. It becomes direction. When it comes to something as sacred as divine partnership, you can't rely solely on feelings, signs, or even timing. Feelings change. Signs can be misread, and timing, well, it often dances to rhythms we can't quite predict. That's why when God is truly bringing someone chosen for you, he confirms it through a much deeper channel, prayer and discernment. This isn't about just whispering a quick prayer and hoping for a yes. It's about communion, about coming into alignment with the stillness within you that already knows. When you bring a connection before God, not just out of curiosity, but out of a sincere desire for truth, he responds, not always with a loud voice or a flashing sign. Sometimes it's in layers. Sometimes it's in repetition. But he always responds. You may hear it in the way a certain verse jumps out at you unexpectedly, or in a dream that carries weight far beyond your imagination. You may notice that, just as you begin to wonder if this person is truly from God, a sermon or conversation shows up with uncanny timing, speaking directly into your situation. And the beautiful thing is, none of these confirmations will contradict what God has already written in his word. He doesn't send confusion. He sends clarity even if it takes time to unfold. Discernment, though, is where many get stuck. Because discernment isn't just intuition. It's developed through relationship with the divine. It's the quiet ability to know what's from God and what's merely dressed up to look like it. And the deeper you go in prayer, the sharper your discernment becomes. You begin to realize that not everything good is from God. Not every person who brings butterflies is meant to build with you. Some are lessons, some are mirrors, some are sent to reveal the parts of you that still need healing. But when someone is sent by God, discernment brings a peace that logic can't shake. There's an alignment that goes beyond the surface. You don't feel the need to manipulate the outcome or rush into certainty. You trust that if this is really from God, it won't fade under pressure or collapse under distance. It will withstand the test because it's anchored in something deeper than emotion. It's rooted in the spirit. And here's a part many miss. Confirmation isn't always about hearing a yes. Sometimes the most loving thing God does is say a no or not yet. Sometimes what we think is a promise is actually a preparation. And if we're willing to wait not passively but prayerfully, we create space for God to reveal what our emotions may be clouding. That's where maturity begins. Not in getting what you want, but in being able to hear, wait, and still trust. The person chosen for you won't pull you out of God's presence. They'll lead you deeper into it. You'll notice that your desire to pray grows, that your spiritual ears become sharper, that even when doubt creeps in, you're reminded again and again through prayer, through peace, through divine timing, that something sacred is being formed here. Not rushed, not forced, just quietly, steadily affirmed. You'll stop asking, do they like me? And begin asking, does this connection honor what God is building in me? And when the answer to that question is yes, confirmation becomes less about searching for signs and more about recognizing alignment in your soul. So take your time, seek deeply. Don't just ask God for an answer. Ask Him to shape your heart to receive it. And trust that when He speaks, it won't be to confuse you. It will be to confirm what's already been written in the quiet places of your spirit, long before this moment ever came to be. Because when love is truly divine, the evidence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply the peace that follows after you've asked, and the still steady voice that says, this is me. If you really want to know whether someone has been chosen for you by a higher power, you have to look beyond the surface, beyond the charming words, the chemistry, the way they make you laugh. All of that can be beautiful, of course, but what really matters is the fruit. Not the fruit they offer in the moment, but the fruit they bear consistently. The essence of who they are when no one's watching. The rhythm of their soul in everyday life. We've been trained to prioritize appearance and attraction, but those things are fleeting. What lasts? What endures through seasons and storms is character. And character shows itself in the fruits of the Spirit. Not just once, not just when it's convenient, but repeatedly, over time. That's how you know what kind of tree you're dealing with. Because a fig tree doesn't bear thorns, and a thorn bush doesn't grow apples. When someone is divinely placed in your life, they'll reflect love, not the possessive kind, not the selfish kind, but the kind that gives without keeping score. They'll show joy even when circumstances are tough, peace even in conflict, patience when things aren't going according to plan, kindness even when it's not earned, goodness that doesn't need to be broadcasted, faithfulness that doesn't change with their mood, gentleness when you're at your most vulnerable, and self-control when desire tries to overpower wisdom. You'll start to realize that this person isn't perfect, but they are intentional. They don't just react, they reflect. They don't just listen to respond, they listen to understand. You'll see in them a desire to grow, to become more whole, more honest, more compassionate. Not just for you, but for the sake of being a better vessel for divine love. And you'll notice something else too. They won't idolize you. They won't put you on a pedestal and expect you to stay perfect. Instead, they'll love you in a way that keeps pointing you back to the source. The connection won't revolve around ego or emotional highs. It will revolve around grace, around truth, around mutual growth. It's easy to fake fruit for a short while. Anyone can pretend to be patient for a week. Anyone can mimic humility in the honeymoon phase. But time reveals truth. The longer you walk with someone, the more you see whether they're rooted in something deeper or just putting on a show. So slow down, watch. Not with suspicion, but with discernment. Let them show you who they are through how they handle adversity, how they treat people who can't do anything for them, how they respond when you disappoint them, or when life doesn't go their way. Those moments speak louder than any declaration of love. And here's where it gets beautiful. When it's real, when they're truly chosen, those fruits won't feel like performance. They'll feel like peace, like stability, like something your spirit recognizes, even if your mind is still catching up. You won't have to convince yourself to stay or force yourself to believe in a future that keeps unraveling. Instead, it'll feel like building something solid, brick by brick, rooted in something sacred. Because when God sends someone, He doesn't just send a person, He sends a reflection, a glimpse of His character through the hands and heart of another. And in that reflection, you won't just feel loved. You'll feel seen, nourished, safe, and called higher. So let the fruit speak. Let it tell you the truth long before your heart makes promises your spirit can't keep. Because in the end, it's not the butterflies that confirm love, it's the roots. And the deeper the roots, the sweeter the harvest. It's tempting to think that when something is divinely orchestrated, it should all unfold effortlessly. As if the stars will align, the doors will swing open, and everything will feel like a perfectly written script. But life doesn't work like that, not even with divine love. In fact, sometimes the clearest sign that something is meant by God is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of peace within it. When two people come together under divine timing, there will be resistance. Not necessarily from within the relationship itself, but from outside forces that sense the weight of what's being formed, because anything carrying purpose will face pressure. And a union built on truth, love, and God's design, well, that's the kind of thing the world often doesn't understand and the enemy would love to dismantle. But here's what's different about a God-ordained connection. When the opposition comes, you don't fall apart. The waves may crash, but the foundation stays firm. There's something steady about the way the two of you hold space for one another. Something that refuses to give in to fear, to ego, to pride. You may not always agree, but you keep choosing each other, not because it's easy, but because something deeper keeps whispering a stay. You begin to notice that even when the world outside is chaotic, there's a calm between you. You're not trying to win against one another. You're learning how to win together. You don't run from the storm. You link arms and walk through it. That kind of love doesn't happen by accident. It's grown, it's tested, it's refined in fire, and proves its strength in moments of uncertainty. What's more, divine love doesn't demand perfection. It invites vulnerability. It doesn't ask you to hide your scars or suppress your struggles. Instead, it says, bring it all. Bring the mess, the doubts, the fears. Let's be real here. Because when something is from God, it has room for humanity. It knows how to carry both weakness and strength in the same breath. And maybe that's how you'll recognize it. It's not flawless, but it's faithful. It's not loud, but it's resilient. There's a peace that stays, even when emotions rise. A grace that holds space, even when tempers flare. You look at the person beside you and realize they're not here just for the good times. They're not retreating at the first sign of struggle. They're still standing, still choosing, still showing up. You begin to see how the opposition only sharpens your bond. That the resistance doesn't break you, it builds you. You're not just enduring it together, you're growing through it. And there's something profoundly holy about that kind of perseverance. Because in a world that's quick to quit, there you are, still rooted, still choosing love. Not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. So don't panic when pressure arises. Don't interpret challenges as detours. Sometimes the fire is just there to reveal what's real. To separate fantasy from foundation. And if in the middle of that heat, you both keep showing up with humility, with love, with forgiveness, then what you're holding is more than emotion. It's sacred ground. Because real, divinely ordained love doesn't run from conflict, it rises through it. And when the winds blow, it doesn't fall to pieces. It leans deeper into purpose, knowing that what's built with heaven's hands will not be shaken. And so when you feel that quiet peace in the chaos, when you see them standing beside you despite the pressure, you'll know this is not the absence of resistance. It is the presence of something worth enduring for. The most beautiful kind of love, the kind that echoes with something eternal, is the one that calls you higher. Not in a loud, demanding way, but in a quiet invitation. When God is truly behind the connection, you won't just feel supported. You'll feel stretched, encouraged to grow, to evolve, to become more of the person you were created to be. You won't shrink to make the relationship work. You'll expand. It's easy to fall for someone who makes you feel seen. But it's something else entirely to walk with someone who makes you want to see more. More of yourself, more of God, more of the world around you. The right person, the one truly chosen for you, won't let you stay stuck in old patterns. They'll speak life into the places where you've settled. They'll lovingly challenge the stories you tell yourself about your limitations. And more often than not, they'll do it simply by the way they live. When love is rooted in God, it doesn't center around the need to be completed. It centers around partnership, two whole people growing towards something sacred, not because they lack without each other, but because together they create space for more understanding, more depth, more healing, more purpose. You'll start to notice how your priorities shift, not away from yourself, but towards something greater than just the two of you. Your conversations deepen, not just about your past or your pain, but about your future, about the kind of legacy you want to leave. About what it means to love with purpose. And somewhere in the middle of all that, you realize that the relationship isn't just about companionship. It's a reflection, a mirror that shows you who you're becoming and who you're meant to be. It doesn't mean you won't have moments of struggle. You will. You're still human. You'll still be tempted to close off, to resist, to protect yourself. But in those moments, they'll stand with you. Not to fix you, not to force you, but to walk with you through this comfort of growth. And you'll do the same for them. That's the beauty of mutual refinement. It's not one person carrying the weight. It's two people learning how to move together, both willing to do the inner work. And what's even more powerful is that love like this always leads back to God. Not out of obligation, but because the deeper you go with each other, the more you feel drawn into the presence of something divine. The relationship doesn't become your identity. It becomes a vessel for truth. You begin to pray more, not just because you want the relationship to work, but because you see what it's birthing in you. You start to crave not just emotional intimacy, but spiritual unity. There's no longer this need to perform or pretend. You feel safe to be your full self, your passionate, flawed, radiant, uncertain self, because you know you're not being judged. You're being loved. And through that love, you're being transformed. That kind of connection is rare. Doesn't always come wrapped in the package you expected. It may not arrive on the timeline you hoped for. But when it shows up, it's unmistakable. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Because it doesn't pull you away from your faith. It roots you deeper in it. Because it doesn't inflate your ego, but it humbles you gently and consistently. You'll find yourself thanking God not just for the person, but for what the connection is doing to your heart. For the way it's softening you, sharpening you, shaping you. So if you're wondering whether this is the one, ask yourself not just how they make you feel, but how they make you grow. But how they make you grow. Now they make you grow. And if the answer is clear, if they draw you nearer to truth, to love, to grace, then you'll know this isn't just a relationship. It's a holy journey unfolding in real time.